The following is a hockey podcast. The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Muted? Oh, there you go. Okay, I'm back. Okay? That's the type of start the Canucks gave you, and that's the type of start I'm giving you right now, okay? A bit laggy, a bit all over the place. And how can I not be, okay? The Canucks season just ended to the hands of the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to go off the dome here. No structure to the show, no intro, none of that jazz. Let's just talk from the heart and get to some comments. And it is what it is, right? Life happens, man. You're going to lose a lot of hockey games in this thing called your long life. You're also going to lose a lot of hockey games to a team that is clearly a lot better than you. And that's where we have to start, okay? For real. And I'm not going to poo-poo on the Canucks for too long. Real talk, because I'm extremely proud of a lot of the things they did this season. The battle, the commitment to never giving up. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that you can take into the long term, right? For real. Look at the battle rate on this team. It's actually inspiring. But before we do that, let's talk about the Oilers, okay? For real, off the top. Let's talk about the Oilers. Let's do so for 2 or 3 minutes because I'm not going to front. I was impressed. Very impressed in the majority of the games we played against the Edmonton Oilers. It's just the truth. And I know I talked a lot of ish. I know I was skeptic a lot of times when looking at that roster. But at the end of the day, I just watched 7 games against that team. They outclassed us in 5 of the games. Or 4.5. But do the math. They were the better team the whole way through. And if Artur Silovs is not literally standing on his head, this series is possibly over in 3 games. It's actually astonishing, so surprising, and very discouraging how this team and its players in multiple portions throughout this series relied on a 23-year-old third-string goaltender to keep them in games. I feel as if there were moments outside the third period for this team to rally behind that type of performance, but time in and time out, your Vancouver Canucks couldn't do so against the Oilers. And again, the Oilers, they're actually not a bad team. They're actually not a one-line team. How can you say that about the Edmonton Oilers when time in and time out in this series, they stopped the Canucks from generating any offense for long periods of time? Look at Game 6, look at Game 7, look at Game 3, look at big parts of Game 2. They held it down. It was a commitment to a lot of things. It was a commitment to team defense. It wasn't just McDavid and Draisaitl on their lines doing that in the defensive zone. It was somewhat of a team effort. They were sticky. They didn't give you much, and they blocked a lot of shots. And they made life hell for some of the offense for the Vancouver Canucks prior to the third period of a lot of these games. You know what I'm saying? So remember that. I think from afar, or maybe you have your Canucks bias on it, and with it, you kind of tell yourself that we just lost to a one-line team. I feel as if that's not the truth. The Oilers, in my opinion, are going to be a formidable opponent to the Dallas Stars. They have a really good chance. It's because they have a good team, and it's also because their star players were a lot better than our star players, okay? It's not rocket science to see that. It's also not that surprising because we're talking about 2 of the most talented hockey players over the last 50 years, and Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, constantly dominating against whatever Canucks pairing, especially Tyler Myers, in the better part of the last 2 games. They're going to do their thing. I think there's a stat about Leon Draisaitl. He's one of 3 players with 100 points in his first 60 playoff games. The other 2 players are Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. And oh yeah, again, they got Connor McDavid on this team too. Those guys are historic, legendary players. And to be honest, we've talked about that all series long. You can go back to the film. You can go back to the YouTube shorts. It is what it is. And I'm tired of doing so because there's nothing new to be said. Again, legendary players, possibly 2 of the best 20 players of all time doing their thing for the Oilers. But there's that other guy with 10 points from the back end on this series. The other guy who's not just a merchant off of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on that power play, and that's Evan Bouchard. Not the best player in his own zone, but who is, real talk, in the playoffs, there's only few players across the league that can hold their own 100% of the way through defensively. but man, oh man, clutch offensively. 4 big goals in this series. He put me on notice. Before this, I was not a quote-unquote Evan Bouchard believer. From afar, again, you look at him and you say, yeah, anyone can pick up 90 points if they have a big slap shot and they're playing on that power play. But man, oh man, not everyone can be clutch. Not everyone has ice in their veins. And I'm starting to believe Evan Bouchard has that. 4 goals, 3 of them game winners, if my math is correct. And somehow, some way, dominating the matchup against Quinn Hughes. If we're going to make that matchup up in our minds, right? In our hockey brains. And that's the surprising part. That is like 40% of why we lost this series, because Evan Bouchard was a tier above Quinn Hughes all series long. Clutch, ice in his veins, 4 goals, doing his thing. And another big piece to that top-heavy team, because he's doing some pretty historic things too. Is that 19 points so far in the playoffs? Guy proved me wrong. Also, I got to say this too, right? Again, off the dome, emotional. Who knows what I'll say tomorrow morning. I know I'm being really nice to the Oilers right now. Keep in mind, it's the first time we play these guys in the playoffs. You know I'm not bringing this love the next time we do this down the road. But it's our first time. Our very first time. The hate has just started. But right now, I am going to do my thing and just appreciate some of the stars that other team had, because they made life impossible for the Vancouver Canucks. It was one of those scenarios, right? It came to a point in the second period where I was like, yo, how did I think a year 1 team with the 3rd string goalie and Elias Pettersson picking up 6 points in 20 games, however playoff games we played, and Quinn Hughes not having a goal in this series, how could I think that this team had a chance when Evan Bouchard, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid are making history? And I know the Oilers don't have a lot of experience in the playoffs, right? I mean, they've been to a lot of second rounds. I don't know how much credit I want to give them for doing that. But they played in more big games. They've probably learned a couple things. And look at what happened in Game 6 and Game 7. Absolute domination. Absolute domination. A tier above your Vancouver Canucks. And I know the Canucks fought back in the 3rd period to make it a game, to make us all nervous. That's what they do. They don't give up. I'm proud of those guys. It's a good trait to have. It really is, because the Canucks have a talented crop of players. When all things go well and they figure things out and they don't fall asleep for 20 minutes at a time in big games, because, again, they lack some of that experience and they might get cooked in the pressure. When that stops happening, this team playing 60-minute games, it's going to be a thing, and it's going to be beautiful. And then you throw in the fact that they're never out of games. That is, again, inspiring. They did it again today, almost. But it's also fitting that they didn't, because they didn't deserve it. More often than not, especially in the second round of the playoffs, and especially against 2 of the greatest players of all time, the team who deserves it is going to win. And the Edmonton Oilers really deserve this. Again, without Archer Silovs, this series could have been done in 5 or 6 games. Speaking of which, can we chat about Silovs for a bit? How the I just want to swear, man. I just want to swear, okay? How did he do this? Unreal. Come on. I think, individually speaking, and I don't know if I'm leaning into this West Coast bias and just being extremely delusional, I feel as if he just added another layer to this Canucks team moving forward. And no, that does not mean he's the starter moving forward. He's just a big piece of the puzzle. This team is going into next season with Thatcher Demko and Archer Silovs. I'm convinced that Archer Silovs is a great goaltender. Look at what he did in Vancouver, for Vancouver, against McDavid and Draisaitl. He was majestic. And yes, I know. 3-goal games against, 4-goal games against. Didn't really steal the show too much outside of Game 3, right? As far as keeping the goals against down. But he did his absolute best. Case in point, today, if he's not in net, the score is 6-0. 6-0 in the first 30 minutes of that game. What a player. And again, another guy who becomes a big piece of this puzzle. I know there's a lot of other pieces that we don't know about yet, right? Zadorov, Lindholm, Joshua, blah, 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 Philip Hronik. But Silovs is there. And if we're missing a couple players going into next season, especially in the beginning of the season, because that's a big possibility, I feel as if Silovs and Demko allow this team to still gain momentum, a.k.a. win games. Stay in the dance. Be amongst the best. Because this team may have the best goaltending in hockey. Sprinkle in this too. Silovs proved that he could do it in the playoffs too. I'm not just talking about some late regular season success carrying into next season. We're talking about the games that mattered the most. Tonight was Game 7. Game 7 against the Oilers. What happened in the last series? Game 6 against UC Saros. And he dominated. Ice in his veins. Incredible talent. And our best player in the NHL playoffs outside of Brock Besser. I know that sounds alarming because of how much talent this team has. And to be honest, it's the biggest reason why we lost. Again, Archer Silovs was our best player in the playoffs. But man, oh man. You got to take that. You got to take that for what it is and realize this too, okay? I've watched sports for a long time. It is very, 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 very extremely rare for teams that lack any sort of playoff experience, any sort of big game experience to get past the second round of the playoffs. There's something different about that level of intensity, okay? You kind of have to go through it to understand that, again, it's different. And teams that understand that it is different, that go against teams that haven't been there, normally outclass that team because they're more prepared, not because of more practice time and more messages from the coach. It's just a matter of experience, okay? They've been in those moments. They've understood that it's bigger. It's not the same game. You can't just bring the same effort. Something else has got to give, and you don't know what that something else is until you go through it. Again, Canucks, they lose to the Oilers, and in Game 6 and Game 7, get absolutely dominated. I know people in the comments want to talk about the power play. Is that the biggest reason why we lost this series? Sure. Go ahead and say that if you want. I don't believe it. I really don't. I don't believe it. Yeah, they sucked on the power play and a couple goals here and there may have swung things, but again, the Oilers were dominating for long periods of time in the series. Eventually and often, they did beat Silovs. The better team, again, normally wins a round 2 series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Should we get to the comments? Man, oh man. Hey, one love to you and you too, man. It's been a good season. A good ride here on Locked On Canucks. A good conversation constantly with you and you and you and you. Hold your head up high, but also, I don't know if this is a dark thing to say, but don't go moving forward in your life talking about the run in 2024. Okay, keep the standard a lot higher than a round 2 exit. Okay, a round 2 exit is not or does not equate to going on a run. There was a lot of magical moments here. A lot of moments you'll never forget. But again, this wasn't a run. This was a round 2 exit. Let's get to the comments, okay? Burn. With this comment, one left to burn. Wake up. The Canucks played poopy the whole series. Can I say shitty? I just did, okay? Had high expectations. Bro, they did. They did play pretty bad for the majority of the series. Again, Silovs was outer-worldly, okay? It was eerily similar to what happened against Vegas all those years ago, right? With Demko. Oh, look at this comment from Mother Nucker, okay? Guy had tickets to Game 1 in Dallas. Big time fan down south, okay? Much love, Kyle. We will do this bigger and better next season. Hey, one love to you, man. Pleasure connecting with you, for real. Popeye Sailor, okay? 7 games in the second round is pretty good, to be honest. It's great. Again, a great experience, okay? There's a difference in losing in 5 games than in losing in 7. I know it's the obvious, right? But it's just not a number thing, right? It's not just a games play thing. It's also that experience that you did obtain. Again, these moments are so much bigger. The Canucks did not understand that in game 6 and game 7. But I'm pretty sure with this lineup, with Rick Tocchet, with the professionalism here, with those players, they're going to get it the next time around. And that bodes well, again, for the end goal, which is bringing a Stanley Cup to Vancouver. Look at Ryan, okay? Go Canucks, go. Go Canucks, go. Go Canucks, go. Hey, one love, man. One love to the Vancouver Canucks. Thank you for a great season. Thank you for exceeding expectations. Thanks for, gaining that experience. Okay, it's going to bring that end goal in closer. How about this one? Citos, we miss Brock Besser tonight big time. What are the chances, right? Ilya Mikheyev gets into the lineup and has 2 of the greater scoring chances in the first period, okay? In a period in which the Vancouver Canucks sucked. They sucked, and that guy had the game on his stick in the first period. Unreal. And what does he do? He misses the net after Deacon Stewart Skinner. He misses the net. Open net, misses the net. And maybe Darnell Nurse got a stick on it, but you can't make that stuff up. Look at this comment again from Byrne, okay? Seriously, that game was a joke. I've seen a game tonight where the Canucks didn't give an effort. What a shitty performance again. Again, I think the Canucks were trying, okay? I know that's crazy to say. I think at one point they were outshot 26-4, 26-6, down 2-0, okay? And I'm here saying that they were trying, okay? Again, these are your Vancouver Canucks. They're led by Rick Tocchet. Of course they were trying, but their effort or their attempt at trying hadn't been in an experience like that before, right? They didn't know what to expect. They weren't prepared for what was coming. They weren't prepared for that environment. They weren't prepared to do it at home. You know what I'm saying? They haven't done those things before. The effort was there, but the experience wasn't. But man, oh man, it goes down to who they played. And the Oilers, a team that's been there a couple times. Again, second round matchups, that's their thing. They've experienced that. They understood the assignment. The Canucks did it. Look at this, man, from Mello. Shout out to Nelson, Zuffer, Aiden, and Nick. Hey, one love to the Canucks, man. One love to the Canucks group chat. It was a fun time connecting with some high school homies again. And that's what it's all about, right? Experiences, connection, looking after your neighbors. I constantly do say it time in and time out, right? How are you going to take care of the world if you can't take care of your neighbors? And man, oh man, it was wonderful connecting with my neighbors once again. I'm getting a little choked up, okay, all over the place. Can't even string up a sentence here. But it's emotional times, man. Again, the Canucks, they lose to the Oilers in Game 7, get outclassed. McDavid and Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard, they move on. Again, emphasis on Evan Bouchard. It's really time for the Canucks and the fan base. Again, it's year 1 of this rivalry. I think that we can kind of do this now. You can fan how you want to fan, but I'm not going to take too much time hating or feeling a boatload of animosity towards them just yet because I'm 31 and a half years old. I've been reading some Mitch Albom, and I'm grateful to be here. And what I just witnessed was a lot of historic performances on the Oilers side of things, and Evan Bouchard is definitely part of that. Again, don't really love his defensive game the whole way through. He makes a lot of mistakes behind his net, but offensively speaking, yeah, a lot of players in this day and age put up points, and a lot of players could do so playing with McDavid and Draisaitl, but he's clutch. Evan Bouchard is clutch. He proved it. Whether that's because he's been through it and has gotten that experience or because he just has it instinctively, right? Maybe he's one of those guys. 4 goals in this series, 3 game winners. Man, oh man, what a performance from Evan Bouchard. And this is a thing that we'll talk about for a while because this is life being a Canucks fan. But the fact that Quinn Hughes got out-tiered by Evan Bouchard is a big reason why we lost, man. Quinn Hughes, 0 goals in the playoffs. Elias Pettersson. Is it Elias Pettersson? Man, oh man. Without his name being rung out by the announcer. I'm struggling with the pronunciation of his name, but Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes combined for 1 goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the Canucks made it to Game 7 with a third-string goaltender. Connect the dots. Again, the Oilers were always a better team than the Canucks. There was no way this team, your team, was going to get any further than a second-round performance if 2 of the best players, 2 of the faces of the franchise, Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, combined for 1 point. 1 goal. 1 goal on this journey in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. Crazy. Pettersson, a guy that's going to be hearing it. 1 goal, 4 assists, 1 goal, 5 assists, all the way through. Very disappointing. That being said, it's different this time around, man. A lot of pressure on that guy, and definitely going through an injury. Curious to see what the injury list looks like. But again, it's easy for me to say. Okay, I'm just a Hindu on this side. The whole injury thing, right? It's gonna happen. Everyone's injured in the playoffs. Everyone is injured in the playoffs. You don't think McDavid guys are injured, right? But that experience again that you go through playing against other injured players and seeing them rise to the occasion is something that the Canucks haven't seen before. And now they just saw it, okay? You know what I'm saying? And as Weber is saying, Pettersson's going to learn his lesson. Look at this comment from Dale, okay? Dallas will stomp Edmonton, okay? Again, year 1 of this rivalry. Don't have that animosity completely for the Oilers just yet. But I don't see them stomping the Oilers, okay? We got to give them credit for, again, shutting down the Canucks in 4 of these 7 games for a long period of times, okay? Good teams, great teams do not go quiet multiple times in a playoff series, let alone a playoff journey, because they did the same thing in Nashville, right? For 20 minutes at a time. Look at this one, Rogue. The last 2 Canuck games, they were completely out of gas. It's either that or, again, they didn't understand that it's different. It's different. This experience is different. The pressure is different. The pace is different in Game 6 and Game 7 of the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs against a team that's led by Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard. Anyways, I got to get out of here, okay? One love to the people, you and you, and you and you, and you and you. For doing this, and I think we're going to have a lot of that type of energy in the next couple of days. When Begsy's back tomorrow, we'll start doing it. And that's, again, thanking you and you and you and you for being here for a great season, a beautiful season, a fun time. We got to see a lot of things this season. We got to talk a lot. We got to be optimistic. Do you want me to do the hindsight thing too, right? Look at what we were 14 months ago, 12 months ago, 13 months ago. Disappointed that we didn't win the draft lottery. Thinking about trading Brock Besser. Questioning OEL. We weren't expecting this, and that's going to Game 7 against 2 of the greatest to do it in the second round of the playoffs. We also weren't thinking that Artur Silovs was going to be this big of a story, and again, a big player in the future of the Vancouver Canucks, and more notably, the immediate future of your Vancouver Canucks. That's something to lean on. A lot of teams will not have better goaltending than the Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko will be able to stay healthy because of Artur Silovs. And also will be able to, what's the word I'm looking for, right? That competitive balance that's in that locker room now, right? For that crease. You don't think that's going to do something to Demko? Goaltending, man. A key figure for Vancouver for years to come. I'm sure we'll talk more about the offseason in the days to come. But right now, I'm going to sign out, okay? Emotional times. I'm going to roll up a fat one, go home, cook a meal, listen to some post game for some other guys. And, yeah, I don't know. Just think about the future, man. What's next? For not only the Canucks, but for myself and the Don't Doze Art Lab, for real. Anyways, one love to you and you. Keep your head up high. Go Canucks, go. I'll only say this once and once only, but congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers. And Yeah. Have a good night. Peace.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of